Greetings, YouTube. I've never done so many forum posts on this channel in 24 hours, but it is just a historic amount of time for Kabam to be responding to things. And my last two were pretty critical of them, and I stand by that, particularly for the ever-growing pattern of we've got some reason to believe that a champion is really powerful and overly powerful on certain things, in this case, True Focus with Kitty Pryde, and so we're going to wait until her featured crystal is out of the rotation, until she's the sub-featured champion, until people have spent countless amount of units, whether it be trying to get those featured calves, the early access bundles, or especially the hours grinded for them in the arena before they say, yeah, so hold on to that for a while because we're gonna change it. So not a big fan of that, and I never will be. But that is also very common with the history of how Kabam does things, especially when it comes to trying to make the most money possible with new featured champions. I know people who used to spend a ton of money on featured champions who now have a firm belief that they're not going to go after any champion when they come out because it's sort of like buying a new car where you feel like there's going to be recalls and they're inevitable. This forum post is different, though. I want to give Kabam their flowers, as the kids would say up front, because I think it's really well worded. It addresses a lot of the issues I discussed with Kabam Broccoli, who did a really fascinating job of outlining how a lot of these issues, whether it be the parry dex issue or even some of the lag frame rate issues, are not really Kabam has learned all on their end, and you can be skeptical about that if you want, but I do believe him when he said that they're trying to get their own server and their own equipment for these issues because the third party can control it. And when this game started, it was just a small version of what it is now. I can't imagine that they ever thought they'd be putting as many things on a server as they are now. So you got to evolve, right? As a graduate professor I once had said, you either evolve in life or you die. So Kabam is looking to evolve their engine upgrades, robots, and more. And the more, actually, is compensation, which I'm excited to talk about, as that is also a theme of this video. Greetings, Summoners. It's been a little while since we've communicated on the ongoing control issues, and today we wanted to give you a little different kind of post where we'll explore the cause of the issue, what it entails, and the progress. Again, this is an amazing post that I invite you to read word for word, but if I did that, it'd be 30 minutes, and it would probably be the most boring video in the history of YouTube. So I'm just going to kind of sum it up and hit some high points. So the point of hopefully clicking on this video is for me to give you information that's concise and not verbose. Okay, so they want to give us insight into the difficulties addressed based on how we feel and introduce us to a new member of the team. This is the key part of this to start. So the issue is, when they're referring to parry and dex, we're not actually talking about an issue with parry or dex themselves, but a frame rate and control input issue exclusive to iOS devices. Now, here's the thing. I've heard from a lot of you Android users that you have had bad parry, dex, lag, crash, frame rate issues. So when I read it's something's exclusive to iOS, it does negatively reinforce those perceptions that Android users are second-class citizens, and that the reason why they're discussing this is because they think it's an Apple exclusive problem. Not to say that there isn't a degree of it that's Apple exclusive, but I've just known a lot of people who play on Androids who've reported the exact same problems. Marvel Contest of Champions is built on a third-party game engine. Again, it's not theirs, it's third-party. By our partners at Unity, which has an input system built in. We've relied on Unity's input system since the game was built and have regularly updated the engine as they have released updates. With the most recent update to the engine, a bug was fixed where iOS devices had been operating at the device's own frame rate instead of being capped to 30 frames per second as it was set to. This meant that iOS devices had a slightly different input window than Android devices, but this was never identified. This also makes sense because I've known people who've gone from iPhone to Android or Android to Apple that have told me, Prof, it's like suddenly I have to go back to the beginning. I just feel like I'm drunk or something. Like all my inputs are wrong. And it's fascinating to now read that and think, oh, maybe that's what they meant. Since this is how iOS devices had always worked with our game, since launch, we had built game interactions around that input window. Now, because this bug in the engine has been fixed, it changed the input window of inputs for all iOS devices. Okay, so we operate on Phil. I'm going to skip ahead. Again, not reading every word of this, but I want to showcase Kabam taps a lot, which also sounds like something that could get you arrested. We knew that we needed a consistent way to test inputs and be sure that we're taking human error and feel out of the picture and to be absolutely sure that we're making progress in the right direction. a fantastic goal. Fully support Kabam in that endeavor. Since we can't be 100% certain, we expanded our roster and added a new member to the team. Team Kabam taps a lot. Look at this. Now, this does look like something that you would submit from like a 6th grade science fair, but hey, if it works, it works. The name Taps a Lot comes from Cat Murdoch, and we fell in love with it instantly. So, Cat Murdoch, shout out to you, another incredible member of the community that has done fantastic work in so many different venues and avenues. Taps a Lot is a robot built by our own engineers to do 2 things: read the screen and tap. This gives us more consistent data to look at and lets us see the variance between when a user would hit the screen, in this example for a parry on run-in, and when that action is successful versus when you take a punch to the face. Taps a Lot crowning achievement so far has been that it gave us an objective measure of the issue. This in turn allowed us to bisect through upwards of 30 engine versions, that sounds like a lot, until we were able to find the exact change that was made. The first 2 bars in the chart below shows the difference between the input window and variant version 31.1 and version 32.0 of the patches where the issues first appeared. Ignore the 3rd bar for now. We'll get to that one later. Okay, so the first 2 bars in 31.1 and the main. You can see the numbers are slightly different in the red and pretty significantly different in the blue, and the input time is in milliseconds. I feel like I'm back in graduate statistics when I cover this, but that's a good thing. And again, I love this post by Kabam. It's one of the best posts I've ever seen from them that they put out. Kudos to them. While it's a great start, we can't be totally confident in the findings until we have Taps a Lot test more devices and ensure that we're seeing a consistent pattern across those devices as well. Taps a Lot is going to be joined by some friends soon. We've started working to build many more robots just like it and plan to quickly expand our ability to test multiple devices and scenarios at once, and will be a part of our testing on all builds going forward so we can avoid another situation like this from happening again in the future. What does a fix look like? Since this issue is the result of a bug fix to the engine, reverting back to what it was before is not possible. So we're not going back to the past, y'all. This new system will have more stability than our previous input system, which was built on legacy code. Not legacy code, but legacy code. All right, let's take another look at the bar graph above, but this time we want to direct your attention to the 3rd bar that represents the response time in the early stages of development of our new input system. Things are trending the right way as we get the input window closer to what it was before, but we're not quite there yet. I really, really appreciate that they're acknowledging that they're making a difference, but there's still room to grow. I think sometimes my frustration with Kabam in the past is that they would say, it's like the house was burning, and they'd be like, everything's great. What, stop complaining. What are you worried about? And some of their forum moderators would basically say the same thing, shut up and be thankful the game exists. Well, you are not grounded in humility or wisdom, buddy. I just got to tell you that. So, it's nice. It's nice transparency. It's positive information. And speaking of positive information, they talk about, remember this is showing the results of a single test on one device, iPhone XS Max, very preliminary. Stuttering and crashing. Gameplay issues can be a catch-all for other issues occurring in the game. Stuttering, frame rate issues, other gameplay problems when we identify what the actual issue is. We found that an asset memory leak is the culprit. An asset memory leak sounds like something you'd see in like a Tom Cruise movie or a James Bond movie or a Jason Bourne movie, I guess. And I have a 2-step fix coming for this issue. First step, patch 32.3 next month in October. Another will follow in 33.0 in November. I don't know if we're supposed to take that as discouraging if it's going to take 2 more months to get it fixed, allegedly, but at least it's getting better. So, in conclusion, we know that hearing that these issues are going to persist for a while and that there is, unfortunately, nothing that we can be done to speed that up is not the news you likely wanted to hear. Nor do we enjoy having to share that with you all. But we wanted to be open with you all about what we can expect, the reason that has happened in the first place. That is such a wonderfully worded post. If you just give this copy and paste to Kabam Mike and just whatever he responds to, just paste this link in with him, there's no passive aggressiveness, there's honesty, there's sincerity, and there's the bit of regret in it. Everything you look for a public relations wing of a major $1 million company to say. So Kabam Mike, just do yourself a favor, man. Just say this every time. It's way better than the passive aggressiveness we usually read from you. In the meantime, we will continue our Alliance Quest and Alliance War potion and resource packages, and we'll be delivering, again, huge takeaway from this, we'll be delivering a package of single-player content resources next week that will be repeated on an occasional basis. I do not expect this to be like the major compensation we got for progression levels before. I saw people, I call it the 6-star Nexus army. Every time somebody sees the word compensation, they're like, 6-star Nexus? Which, by the way, you can get a 6-star Nexus and have it still be total trash. Right? You can get a 6-star Nexus as compensation, and suddenly you've got Groot, Captain America, World War II, and Mordo as your 3 options, and you want to quit the game even more. So, Nexus crystals are fun to open, but the reality oftentimes is worse than the concept or idea of it. We want to thank you all for taking the time to read through all of this and for your patience as we've worked on this situation. So, another fantastic post. What would you like to see the compensation to be? Now, be realistic. We shouldn't expect units at this point, even though I wish that was the case. I would just like to see more revives, if nothing else, and maybe a couple energy refills. But I think revives and potions are really what I care about most. And then that actually gives me a chance to, as I'm frustratingly slowly trying to explore, do more of 7.2, as I think I've only fully explored 1 chapter out of the mini in it. I know this is a longer post than normal, but I didn't want to be, shall we say, limited in how I discussed it. And so thank you for the chance to click on this video. And also, I would love to hear your thoughts on what the realistic keyword compensation should be. Lastly, I want to say again, Kabam, this was a fantastic post. Thank you for your transparency and your improvement in the wording. It is so much better than what we've seen this year from some of your, shall we say, moderators.